let's just go and look at the cameras now.
Yeah.
You usually have two function buttons. One is usually on the grip. This will change, depending on the mode, will change the aperture or the shutter speed. And the back one will do another function. So that the functions change depending on this button over here or another button over there. This basically, you can change the modes of the camera. Okay, this camera is in of the camera. Okay, this camera is in manual at the moment, meaning that I adjust the shutter speed with this and the aperture on the lens with this. Okay, and it depends on what the meter is telling me as to how bright it is. If I switch menus, there's usually an information button that will change the display button there. So there. Okay, so this is changing my shutter speed, and this is changing my aperture up here separately. Okay, so that's in full manual mode. The other modes that what you're probably going to use mostly are aperture, or TA on Canons. Aperture priority meaning that I just change the aperture and then the camera sets the shutter speed. S, shutter speed primary, or TV on Canons. And then this button now changes the shutter speed. And then the camera sets the aperture. And then there's P for pre-program modes or program modes. We're trying to avoid that one altogether. The ones I tend to use are aperture or shutter speed variable and manual. Okay. The one thing that this camera, all of these cameras have over a film camera is the ISO here. So ISO on the film camera is set by the film. On a digital camera, it's set by the camera. And essentially, it's just how much amplification the camera is going to do. Most cameras, the lowest ISO is the best. Some cameras, this one goes down below low, and also goes all the way up to high or highest is 51,200 ISO. Really, really, really high. You lose quality as you go up, but you gain sensitivity. So that's for shooting in dark places. It can be really useful, and it is very useful to do that, but you can't really, the lower the ISO, the better the quality you get. So you kind of want to stick to low ISOs in general, unless you're in a dark place and you need, or shooting at night and you need the you need the real sensitivity. You don't want to go above a certain period. The newer cameras like this, the mirrorless, their ISO sensitivity is very wide, and they're really good in low light. In a situation where I'm shooting, like I'm not sure of the lighting, like I'm going in and out of places, or the clouds are coming and going, I'm going inside and outside, or it's a dark place, and I'm not sure about how long the lighting conditions are going to stay the same. What I will do is with ISO here, sorry to set there, if I press the ISO button on the camera, wherever it is, one dial here does the speed in general. The other dial here will switch it between auto ISO and not auto ISO. So auto ISO is what I would do when I don't know the situation in terms of the lighting, if it's going to change. So what that does is I can put the camera in manual, and I can set the aperture that I want for the amount of focus and the shutter speed that I want to stop camera shake or stop motion in front of the camera. And then in digital cameras, the camera will ramp the ISO up and down according to your exposure settings. I find that's really useful. And given the broad latitude of a RAW file, this allows you to get a good exposure in the camera no matter what, and then you can edit it later. So if you want to set and forget, set your aperture the way you want it to be, the shutter speed where you want it to be, and then put it on auto ISO, and then let the thing go up and down. The camera, that's letting the machines take over. It's a really good idea, particularly if you're shooting multiple different locations and different lighting conditions. The point is to get a good RAW file in the camera that you will edit later. Okay. What other parts do you really need to know? We talked about that. There are some zoom in buttons if you wish. Playback button. There's always a playback button somewhere, which plays back the last shot that you got. And then there's some sort of dial on the Canons, or this one's a little jog wheel that allows you to skip through the different pictures that are already on the card. You can zoom in a lot, or you can zoom out and you can see more in the card like that. That's things like that. There's other functional buttons, like this is a multiple exposure and timer button. Some cameras will have autofocus buttons or focus buttons, AF on back here. This turns the autofocus on. There are buttons on the front that you can change the function for. I suggest you read the manual for each camera. That's about it for the important buttons. Trigger button, on, off, ISO. There's going to be somewhere on the back, or at least in the menus. Like on a less advanced camera like this, I don't know. Yeah, there's an ISO button there. Some of the smaller or less professional Canons have it only in the menu system, which is a pain in the butt. The more advanced professional cameras have more buttons, but there is they mean more functionality, or actually more access to functionality. Other thing, then one thing we know, the menu button, the OK button says what it says. It's OK. It agrees to a bunch of settings. There's always on the Canons and the Nikon, there's going to be a quick menu button. On the Nikons, it's I for information, and then I get into a quick menu setup. Then I've got set up myself. There's a standard bunch of settings in here. So I have the file quality, whether the flash goes on and off, wireless transmission, I usually leave off, which card I'm going to shoot to, image stabilization on or off, focusing modes, and white balance. And that's sort of what I leave on there. Oh, the other thing is metering. This camera has a very good meter on it. This camera that one's not so good. What it basically comes down to is that if you can change the way the camera sees light, there's 4 different modes. There's average, center weighted, multi-matrix, and then focus point attached. Read the manuals as to which one you want to do. The matrix metering on the modern cameras is really good. It isolates and controls. It sees highlights and shadows and then gives you an average. It's pretty good. That works in most situations, unless it's like someone that's in front of a window and backlit, and it becomes more complicated. But they're very good at reading the light. This camera is less so. I kind of have to tell it to what I need it to go at. But again, because we're going to be shooting RAW, we're much more forgiving of